It was interesting to be greeted down COVID lane at the start of this course. The idea that it intensified existing problems resonated with me, and I was interested to hear what others thought. We seemed to recognize that we were in it all together and some things needed to change. But have they? We touched on race, prejudice, and discrimination by giving definitions of the term. We didn't really challenge the school system construct that was developed to serve colonialism, patriarchy, capitalism. It is a very corrupt hierarchy. Recognizing our privilege does help. We acknowledge that many students are marginalized in the school. Specific to English, this is a literacy-based system, so challenges in reading and writing serve to marginalize students even more. Assistive devices and one-on-one assistance helps the students. Nurturing the student to feel safe to self-advocate is the best tool. There were many suggestions to make students feel more included. Visualization is one that stood out for me. I also think empathy is significant. Although it's harder to quantify in a systemic way, getting to know the students and building a relationship is also another good idea. In senior English, we have to understand the adolescent cognitively, physically, and social-emotional as well. We also need to keep in mind things like intersectionality and their overall mental health. We have to understand the whole adolescent learner. Ableism is rampant in our system, and English is particularly ableist because it focuses equating reading and writing with intellect and value. The assistive technology sounds impressive, but it's not always great for many. Good resource teachers help the most. Intersectionality, one of the many current labels given to bias in the system. It was refreshing to see CRRP and 5 and 5 looking for a focus on the students' experience so they would be part of the narrative. I was grateful that at least one discussion component was specific to Indigenous issues. We need reconciliation. In such a diverse world, project-based learning helps us to broaden the learning experience. By answering challenging problems with multiple answers and sustained authentic student voice, we can start this broadening. And by reflecting and critiquing and presenting it to the public, it will diversify the narrative. Collaborative inquiries suggest a recognition that there must be diversity in teaching as well, as long as the big picture is positive and the belief is in pushing the narrative forward. I was sad that we still don't seem ready or able to leave behind the lead teacher, hence the hierarchy prevails. But the lesson plans had diversity and flexibility for both teacher and student. I'm happy we're trying to move away from standardization and grading and more towards equity and inclusion. I know it seems scary and unfair to some, but the system is scary and unfair for many. So if we can include more diversity, we'll have a less scary and unfair system overall. We spent a fair amount of time working on big picture unit and lesson plans and incorporating them with expectations and sources while applying pointless and end product grading. Certainly, it was a worthy challenge. Not only did we focus on big ideas and work our way back, but we had exercises to envision if we had the skill set and the necessary time and knowledge to execute these plans. So we not only focused on preparation and reflection, but prediction and introspection. We need to make sure we have ways of making the big ideas doable. The course content impacted my instructional practices in a positive way. I feel more confident. I've added the inclusive nature of CRRP and PBL and the value of learners as contributors to the narrative. It reinforced my open-ended pedagogy. I feel positively impacted by the assessment practices laid out in this course. It gave a green light to a diverse individuality and weighted heavily towards final results. I'd like to keep the final results weighted heavy as an option though. I work with many transient students and sometimes their best work is in the beginning, then something happens. I'm not sure any learning was completely new. Some of the acronyms are new, like CRRP and PBL. They generally support my pedagogy of inclusivity and diversity. Some content was new, and the lesson and unit plan sources are new for me to use. Pechakucha is new to me also. There were so many acronyms. Sometimes I think we rely too heavily on them and give them too much power. We recite them and recall them generally easier than their meaning, and their meaning sometimes gets lost. I must constantly go back to the meaning and the reason they were created. The source has the power, not the acronym. I know I can better support my students because of this course. The course forced me to dive into specific expectations of several courses that I will be required to teach. It reinforced many of the ideas I have presenting material, but also gave me some ideas for new deliveries. It was encouraging to feel I was on the right track. Whatever will engage the students more will help. I will be working with some fairly disengaged students, so I'm hoping the culturally relevant pedagogy and variation in delivery and assessment covered will help. I think some of the new literature sources will end up being very good, but I would have liked to see even more content suggestions. I was grateful for the many sources in this course, and it was overwhelming and busy, but there are many to look at later. I would have liked to have gone over specific content and shared with others in discussion more, but there were so many required posts, so many threads, and so little time. Perhaps I'll have time to look at these threads a while after the course is over. We began this course reviewing COVID and the In This Together motto, but our delivery and methods seem to be slipping back to we are in this separately. My hope is that some of the acronyms, of which there were far too many, will anchor us in a more holistic, diverse, and inclusive approach to our lesson delivery.